Welcome to King 5. This is The Week, a look at what made headlines in our region, along with your weekend forecast. Let's begin with the World Cup, where Seattle has shined as a host city, especially last week when Seattle hosted both a World Cup match and a Mariners game. Transit systems and shared rides were pushed into record territory. King 5's Madeline Carter has a look at the numbers.
USA! USA!
Seattle saw it coming, a U.S. city ready to welcome the world.
Having all these people around us, is there anything better?
But before the cheers, before the flags, before the U.S. faced Australia, FIFA fans first had to find their way to Seattle Stadium. For many, the journey started early in the morning on Sound Transit.
By the time I got here, it's normally about 7. There were already people that were coming for even the watch parties.
Friday wasn't just
busy, fun.
It was historic. Light rail moved a record 280,000 riders, the most in agency history, topping the Seahawks Super Bowl parade by nearly 60,000, as Sound Transit ran 174 trains, its biggest day ever. From the station, the journey shifted from trains to 2 wheels.
This World Cup, it's been pretty busy down here.
Friday morning, we spotted rows of stashed rental bikes and scooters outside T-Mobile Park. Others were packed into parking lots just beyond the pedestrian-only zone around the stadium.
Yeah, during game days, this is just for pedestrians.
Lime also set a new Seattle record, more than 83,000 trips in a single day, again surpassing the Super Bowl parade. Seattle's fleet of 15,000 bikes and scooters was pushed to the limit, with Lime deploying crews to keep them moving through the city, with riders following along on the app.
I can see how far one is. That tells you how many, the distance, a mile, quarter mile.
Despite the surge in demand during the tournament, Seattle will not be adding any more of these rental bikes or scooters to get you through the World Cup matches. However, they say that they will continue to rely on what they already have in service. You can see there are a lot of these Lime scooters coming by me right now. They are in high demand right now, as you can see. Definitely a fun time out here, but I do want to remind you that tomorrow that will not be allowed because this will be a pedestrian-only zone during the match. I'm live in Seattle. Madeline Carter, King 5 News.
As the U.S. men's national team was busy preparing in California for its final game of the group stage against Turkey, the U.S. war with Iran cast a shadow over the world's biggest sporting event. And with tensions still high, new questions are emerging about travel, security, and what it means to host one of the tournament's most watched matches. Members of Iran's national team faced an unusual journey to this World Cup, waiting in Tijuana before matches on Friday. Iran took the field against Egypt here in Seattle, and it was a test of how an international event moves forward as diplomatic relations remain rocky and travel to the U.S. becomes more complicated for some supporters.
For the first time in this tournament, Iran will be allowed to stay in the same city that it's playing at for more than a day. Before this, they were only allowed to be in the U.S. one day before their match.
Iran was treated differently. I think that was not really fair. Unlike many other countries who were allowed to be inside the U.S., do the preparation, so they had a lot of hardships, even before the World Cup and even right now.
Ali Musavi is from Iran and now calls Kirkland home. On Friday, he'll be inside Seattle Stadium for what he believes could be a historic moment.
Probably the largest gathering of Iranian Americans in Seattle after the war began in February.
The U.S. and Iran have been at war for months, making Iran's participation in the World Cup more complicated than other countries. Iran's base camp is in Tijuana, Mexico. It was moved there from Arizona after the war started. The team played its first 2 matches in Southern California, making Seattle the first host city where it will have 2 full days to train and prepare. Musavi says the change is a relief, but one he wishes had come sooner. Iran asked for more time in the United States before its earlier matches. The Trump administration denied those requests.
Maybe if they had this opportunity for the first 2 games, they would have got better results, because all of these things put pressure on the team to get what they deserve.
Egypt will also arrive in Seattle on Wednesday, as originally planned after returning to its base camp in Spokane following its match in Vancouver. The team asked to come to Seattle sooner, but the federal government turned down that request.
It would be really nice if this happens in future for some other countries, that okay, if there is going to be a World Cup in some country and there is a conflict between the host and one of the participants' teams, It will be great if FIFA does its best to make sure that all the teams are treated equally.
DHS says that this exception applies only to this match here in Seattle. They haven't said whether or not the policy will extend if Iran makes it to the next round. In Seattle, Bridget Chavez, King 5 News.
Local organizers are calling it the city's pride match, but FIFA is not using that name. Brady Wakayama explains why the difference is drawing attention far beyond the field.
Soccer is the biggest unifying event in the world.
Seattle is back on the global stage, hosting Egypt and Iran during a weekend that carries extra weight.
It is the Pride weekend, and it is a culture and tradition of all of us who are queer to celebrate, to be out, to be visible, and to respect our voices.
Bukta Asar with the Port of Seattle, an Iranian American and member of the LGBTQ+ community, says this moment is about visibility, as local organizers brand this the Seattle Pride Match. But there's real tension underneath. Same-sex relationships are illegal in Iran, and in Egypt it's not outlawed but is prohibited under morality laws.
I've struggled with this dual identity all of my life, and I continue to work for the rights of the queer community.
FIFA is not calling this a pride match, but says the World Cup is an inclusive event, welcoming fans of all backgrounds, and rainbow flags and other flags representing sexual orientation and gender identity will be allowed inside Seattle Stadium.
Our role is outside of the stadium. Our role is really about elevating the community here in Seattle and in Washington.
No official pride programming inside, but across Seattle, the celebration will be hard to miss, as the global game meets a city ready to show who it is.
Bigger than politics, it's bigger than religion, it's bigger than political views, it's bigger than nationalities. For us, it's really about us being a host city, showing off what is unique about Seattle, what is special about Seattle.
And the FIFA president said in a statement there will be no pride match at the World Cup. Instead, he says it's a match in Seattle with separate events happening across the city. We also reached out to both teams to comment on this matter, but I haven't heard back. In the studio, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.
A massive fireworks explosion turned a Whidbey Island neighborhood into what one witness described as a war zone. 3 firefighters were hurt in the blast, 2 homes destroyed. Federal authorities are now looking for answers among these 700 pounds of explosives. North Bureau Chief Eric Wilkinson has the exclusive video and the latest on the investigation.
Just over a week from the 4th of July. A pyrotechnic display shakes a community to its foundation.
It was like a war zone at first.
Windows rattled. A couple pictures came off the wall inside.
Just before 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, a house in Whidbey Island's Lagoon Point neighborhood near Greenbank blew up. The ensuing fire destroying a neighboring home and damaging a third. Tanya Henderson's home is damaged but still standing.
Crazy, very insane. Very hot, very big, and very scary.
It appears to have been a piece of the concrete siding that came over.
Investigators discovered debris hundreds of feet away. The explosions continuing for hours.
They were exploding over and over and over. Yeah, it was bad.
3 first responders were hurt. The most serious injury, a firefighter hooking up a hose to a hydrant just 20 feet from the initial explosion. He may lose a finger.
If the guys had been here, or had been standing in a spot just a second later or a second earlier, if the timing just hadn't been right, we would probably have all 3 of them down at Harborview right now.
Investigators tell us a cigarette is believed to have ignited some 700 pounds of fireworks stored inside the house. Exactly why they were there remains a mystery.
This particular was an order that had been placed and received in preparation for an event that was going to happen over on the peninsula somewhere.
Neighbors say they've seen crates of fireworks being carted into the home. They've complained about illegal burning in the backyard.
Mad, anger, that there was somebody that close playing with fireworks and deadly.
For now, they're just thankful everyone is alive as they wait for calm to return to their once peaceful community.
We're just fortunate that the folks that we do know over here, everybody was able to get out.
The sheriff says at this point there have been no arrests, but the investigation is continuing. On Whidbey Island, Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
Well, the FBI says the plot to attack the White House with explosive drones involved a man from Mason County. He is the sixth man to be arrested in an online plot linked to men all across the country. South Bureau Chief Drew Mickelson looked into the allegations.
William Lee Faulkner is 21 years old. He's unemployed and lives with his grandmother in Belfair, out in Mason County. FBI investigators say he could spend the rest of his life in prison for his alleged role in a plot to overthrow the U.S. government. He has been charged in federal court with conspiracy to commit murder. FBI investigators say Faulkner was part of a group that had online discussions about a plan to assassinate billionaires and members of Congress. It was supposed to play out during that UFC fight on the White House lawn to celebrate the birthday of the nation and the 80th birthday of President Donald Trump. The plot was to involve snipers and drones carrying explosives and was broken up after the mother of one of the 5 co-conspirators reported suspicious behavior to the FBI. Investigators say Faulkner was involved because of his alleged knowledge of drones and explosives.
It's one thing to say that I'm talking online and I know a guy and I have connections. It's another thing to actually have the connections and put in motion the production of drones. If it wasn't for the intervention of law enforcement, I do believe they could have carried out maybe not the plans that they had ultimately hoped to achieve, but certainly they could have caused a mass casualty event at the White House.
The FBI says as soon as they made the connection that a man in Washington state may be connected to this plot, they immediately arrested Faulkner. That was on Friday morning, just a couple of hours before the FIFA World Cup game. Faulkner pleaded with the judge saying he needed to be released so he could care for his grandmother. The judge denied that request. He will remain in custody. In Tacoma, Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
King 5 meteorologist Adam Claybon shows you what to expect from the weekend weather right after this.
Hey there everyone, meteorologist Adam Claybon here with you. Welcome to the last weekend of June, which means that the following weekend we'll be heading into that 4th of July holiday. And we are expecting things probably to stay similar to what they are right now. We'll have a brief look at what that forecast could be as we head on into that weekend. But first, wanted to get you through this weekend and what's ahead for us here over the next few days, and the Rainier's forecast down that way around Tacoma, where you can see pretty much everywhere here across western Washington, but more specifically here in Tacoma, we're talking about temperatures which are going to be more around those low to mid, perhaps a few upper 60s during the daytime hours. Now at first pitch Saturday, that game could see a few scattered showers. I think a lot of the rain will be heading south and getting on out of here. A straight chance of a shower on Sunday, should be much drier at that point, and then they have an off day on Monday, and temperatures will be in the mid-60s again, staying cooler, staying mild as we're keeping a lot of these 60s around for quite some time. And now check this out right here. This is the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, and it does include July the 4th, which is going to be heading into next Saturday, and you can see that for us here across most of the West Coast, including here into western Washington, equal chances. That's what that tan color means as far as what we could be anticipating as we head throughout those states right there between the 4th and the 10th. There's an equal chance of temperatures either being above or perhaps below average, which typically means that it's going to be closer to those normal numbers, which right now are in the lower 70s. But we'll talk more about that here in a second. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be seeing here as we head on into the next few days, because recently it's been hot. We saw 80s and 90s for quite some time. Now, Thursday, we saw temperatures drop down into the 60s for highs. And check it out. Over the weekend, we're going to see highs back in the 60s and remaining there. Better chance of showers on Saturday. For us heading into next Monday, we're going to see that high into the upper 60s, and then maybe a few chances of showers throughout the work week. Slightly higher chances again into next Thursday and Friday. And you can see that those temperatures are kind of holding on to the 60s for highs to that next 7-day stretch. So radar is going to continue to stay somewhat active. Again, we will keep this around for our Saturday, so expect to see some light showers from time to time. Convergence zone activity, especially farther north here across more Snohomish, as well as Skagit County, as well as the extreme northern tip of the Kitsap Peninsula and Camino and Whidbey Island. That's where things will be a bit more wet as we start off the day. Saturday, and possibly even into the early afternoon. So that's 5 to 6 to 7 o'clock Saturday morning. You'll see that this does wrap around some moisture as we head on into more the latter part of the morning, and a lot of that will be out towards the coast, and some of that could extend off towards parts of southwest interior, but we're really not seeing a lot of steady rain for many parts around Puget Sound itself. So generally near and north of Seattle is where we're going to see, or north of Everett, is where we're going to have the better chances of seeing some of that rain early into Saturday, especially some of the steadier stuff. And we'll keep some chances around too on Sunday, but again, those chances should be on the lighter side and not quite as widespread. Let's talk about amounts though. What could we see with some of those showers coming on through? Well, areas farther north, especially in Skagit County, up to maybe a half an inch. Port Townsend again up that way towards the extreme northern part of the Kitsap Peninsula, heading into the northeastern clip of the Olympic Peninsula, around 3/4 of an inch maybe, and out towards the areas around the coastal spots, getting closer to about a half an inch in some of those locations as well. Many of us though here around Puget Sound, between about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch ahead for us. And once we get past this system, as you can see, that indicated by some of the greens that you see moving over into parts of Montana and southern parts of Canada there, we're going to see that we'll be right in between those two disturbances. So you see the green off towards the east right there across more of Montana. That's going to be where your area of low pressure is, but at the same time, you see this big ridge of high pressure out over the Pacific. Now, if that was heading closer to us, we would be talking about quite the warm-up as we go later on into next week. But it looks like that's going to stay out over the Pacific. And at the same time, too, you'll see that area of low pressure over parts of Montana. It slowly but surely gets its way on out of here, but it's still bringing an influence of helping things to cool down, more of that northwesterly flow, which is going to help us out, coming in more so from this direction right here, and some of that coming off of the Pacific Ocean as well. So that kind of helps us out with keeping things relatively cool, and you can see it starts to try to find its way back off towards the west to a certain degree as another system comes in from out of Alaska. And what that's going to do here over the next few days, well, most of the moisture is going to stay over into Montana and across more of the Rockies, but some of that could find its way across more of eastern Washington too. We kind of need the rain over there. We've had some very dry conditions, currently have drought conditions over there, so could definitely use some of the shower activity. And a lot of the rain that you're seeing closer to western Washington, most of that is going to be over the Cascade Mountains. So we're not really seeing a lot of that into the lowland areas. But we'll keep an eye on where exactly those showers will track, because things do remain unsettled as we head on into the start of next work week. And eventually they'll start to work their way off towards the east, and things will start to quiet on down as we head on into that point. But check it out, the temperatures right here. We're going to see that those highs will find their way back up into more of the 60s. Those numbers right there here getting up into more of the mid 60s. Saturday through Wednesday averages at 73, and then you can see getting closer to the 4th of July, beginning to climb a little bit. We're going to be cooler on Friday, but maybe back up into the 70s around average as we head into the 4th of July itself. Here's your 7-day forecast. Things for the next week or so going to be cooler than average. A lot of 60s showing up here on the 7-day forecast, but also a lot of low 50s on there too. So for those of us who are tired of the heat, we got this nice long stretch of some more comfortable weather that might be in place for many of you. Okay, everyone, we'll enjoy this last weekend of June, and let's get ready for the upcoming work week and keep an eye out for some of those pop-up showers.
All right, welcome back to the week. We were in first alert weather mode to kick off the week as temperatures surged near record territory for this time of year. Some communities reached the 90s on Tuesday, and a heat advisory was in effect for much of the region. King 5's Bridget Chavez shares how some families cooled off.
When it comes to the heat, the kids at Angle Lake don't mince words.
Really hot. Hot. It's a hot day.
And they have some pretty strong opinions.
This is better than swimming.
And advice.
I like to swim.
You like to swim?
Yeah.
What do you like about swimming?
Swim like this.
On a day like this, that may be exactly the right prescription.
Playing in the water.
Western Washington is in the middle of a 3-day heat wave, and all around the Sound, families are looking for relief.
It feels really hot, and I'm like, why can't I get in the water right now?
King County Health says we all need to take this heat seriously because our bodies need time to adapt to hotter temperatures. That's why staying cool is so important.
You take a really cool shower and or dunk water on your head. That might feel good. Or maybe you could take you could drink watch a lot of like that.
Just over half of King County homes have AC, which means for a lot of families, cooling off has to happen somewhere else.
190 degrees.
How it feels out here for you?
It feels because my feet are burning.
Maybe not quite that hot, but if you ask the kids here, they've got plenty more tips.
I don't like lemonade, but lemonade is one of the other ways. Or maybe ice cream or shaved ice.
And if you do head into the water,
We also have a life jacket.
You have a life jacket?
Red.
the kids at Angle Lake may not have all the answers.
Eat 10 pieces of ice treats.
But they sure know how to make the most of a hot summer day.
When you first get in, it's cold, but then you get used to it.
And sometimes they say exactly
What do you want to talk to us about?
what we need to hear.
I love you.
A teenager was rushed to the hospital in critical condition after jumping off a dock into Lake Washington. Rescue swimmers pulled the 17-year-old out near Mount Baker Park on Tuesday afternoon. And with summer just beginning and more crowds headed to the water, firefighters are worried too many people are ignoring the risks. Here's King 5's Jim Nelson.
The sounds of summer are echoing throughout Seattle parks and beaches.
One of those first hot days of the year. Temperatures are really high today.
At Mount Baker Park along Lake Washington, people are looking for relief, including a small group that included a 17-year-old boy.
Just having a good time on the dock, sunny, hot day. Decided to jump in the water and just something went wrong.
He jumped off the dock Tuesday afternoon and never came back to the surface.
Oh yeah, for sure. That joint happened on the dock. It happened like on the like right there.
The others called 911. The Seattle Fire Department swimmers found him beneath the surface near the dock.
I seen a whole bunch of ambulance, police, firefighter. They would pump his chair. 12 was on the scene. Y'all was on the scene. And yeah, then they took him over there.
It's unclear what went wrong, but it is another reminder.
The water's still cold. That can cause a multitude of dangers and issues.
We don't know exactly what happened, what the circumstances were that led to this water emergency, but we know that it is one of many throughout western Washington as we've been seeing warmer temperatures. Crews all over the area have been responding to lakes and rivers for rescues, including a dramatic rescue caught on drone in Snohomish County.
A rescue boat pulled 5 people to safety on Monday after they got tangled in debris on the Skycomish River east of Monroe. Every situation is different, but the message is the same.
You want to find a way to stay cool, have fun when it's hot outside, but try and be as safe as you can about it.
In Seattle, Jim Nelson, King 5 News.
We want to thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed a look at the biggest stories of the week.